Hello again, folks. You've got to admit that up until yesterday at least, China had played a blinder. Our government has allowed them to, but sometimes you've just got to tip your hat at the absolute arrogance and brazenness of it all. Xi Jinping and his predecessors are masters of the long game, and we are very quickly learning how patient and clever they had been. 6 weeks ago, at the start of our election campaign, China signed a security deal with the Solomon Islands, which will allow China to have a military presence a few thousand kilometres off the North Queensland coast. Then last week, as a new government here was sworn in, its foreign minister announced on a tour of the South Pacific that it was seeking similar deals with not one, but up to 10 island nations in our region. If those deals are to be signed, and those poorer nations will be tempted by promises of cash, it would disrupt sea lines of communication between Australia and the US. It cuts off American assistance if we need it. It makes it harder for the Australian Defence Force to reach, say, Taiwan whenever conflict erupts. China, if it's not already, will be the regional hegemon and continues its ultimate goal of displacing the American order. Fortunately, many of those Pacific Island nations were a step ahead. In Fiji yesterday, something of a development. China's ambassador walked back its proposal for a regional agreement, but it won't stop unilateral talks, and there's just no way that they will give up on getting something over the line. Eventually, still the Solomon Islands, East Timor, Papua New Guinea, Kiribati, Vanuatu, to name just a few that China has shown interest in. And that's just not going to end. The security deals only just came to our attention in recent weeks and months, but China has had them in the works for years. So, as I mentioned, they won't just give up. Let's be honest, the Australian and New Zealand governments could have done better to stop this from happening in the first place. In his first one-on-one interview since becoming the new Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese told me his government is now playing catch-up. If these nations want to sign these security deals with China, you're powerless to stop them from doing that, aren't you?
Well, they're sovereign nations and we need to respect their sovereignty, but we also need to engage with them. We're paying a heavy price for the cuts to aid that occurred.
Anthony Albanese's first assignment as Prime Minister was to attend the Quad meeting in Japan. It was the right decision, and so far at least, the Prime Minister is saying all the right things, that our position on China won't change. At the Quad, the leaders of Australia, the US, Japan and India recognised the threat that China poses to our Pacific neighbours and promised to kick more funding in and make bigger investments when it comes to climate change. The problem is China offers more, and it's got a huge head start. Peter Dutton is Australia's new opposition leader, and in his first press conference since assuming the role was asked about whether he needs to dial down the rhetoric, given so many electorates with a strong number of Chinese Australians voted against the former government.
You and Scott Morrison went out pretty hard on the China issue. The evidence appears to be that you lost the votes of Chinese Australians. If you look at some of the seats that were lost, you went pretty close to accusing people on the Labor front bench of treason, almost. Are you going to attempt to temper some of that language, or there's no backing down? You're still going to go hard on the China issue?
Andrew, I have had the benefit of the briefings in the National Security Committee and obviously at a higher level in some circumstances as Defence Minister. The issue of China under President Xi is the biggest issue our country will face in our lifetimes.
It is the biggest story of our time. I've said that a few times. Sources have told me more creative thinking is going to be needed to counter these Chinese offers that will continue. We can't match its spending. So what can we offer that China can't? More visas for workers to live here, perhaps. Sport could be involved. Can the NRL expand its competition, for example? That would have positive self-generating effects on their own economies. And the French, along with the Quad, need to help. After all, it's got its own footprint in this region. It is a good thing Prime Minister Albanese has already received a call of congratulations from Emmanuel Macron, despite problems of the past, and I still do think cost blowouts were a huge part of ending the subs deal. It's better for us, both, to be on the same side when dealing with such a threat. Thanks for watching. To support this channel, please like, share and subscribe below, and I'll see you next week.